Welcome to the Refined Life Podcast. We're here at Refined Life Pag. Them.
Now you just start at that point. You don't redo it. It's just,
Welcome
everybody
to the
heard you.
Refined Life Podcast. We're here at the Refined Life Podcast. We're refined AF. Okay, it's my new favorite saying. If we don't have a show,
And we don't, and apparently we don't do do-overs or anything. We just roll with it.
yeah. So you got two intros for the price of one there. Anyways, I'm Bigg Vinny, Jeff Suter,
Hey.
Jerry Blake.
Yo.
Bam! Look at that, and we know how to work this thing. No, we're gonna have some cool times today. So I was blessed about a month ago. From the time this films, maybe a month and a half, but from the time this airs, but a month and a half ago, I was blessed to get to be asked to come down to Vegas, or over to Vegas, I guess you'd say, out west, because I'm a country and western singer. Got to go out west, and I got to go to Vegas, and I got to go to this awesome thing called the Risk On 360 event. At this event, John F. Kennedy Jr. I'm sorry, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I was like,
Not
really?
John F.
Is that right?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Charles Payne, big, the money guy from Fox Financial or whatever his Fox Business. Tucker Carlson, who no longer is with Fox because they messed up. No longer with Fox. He's got his own network now. And my buddy Brad Lee. I call him my buddy now because we got each other's cell phone numbers. It's no big deal, Me and old Brad Lee, we're good buddies. Now, when we first started this podcast, did we not say, or Jeff said, bucket list guest on our podcast was
Bradley.
So Bradley is here today.
nope, not today. However,
There he is.
he is. No. However, it's as we get this thing going, we are officially going to be working with these guys. So it's kind of cool to see that it went from being a bucket list to being like, hey, we're actually part of the team.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Anyway, I get this opportunity, and the way the opportunity came about was a God thing. And Jared actually said something one time whenever I was telling this story. I said, man, well, let me tell the story first, and I'll get into what you said. So
Are you interrupting yourself?
I interrupted myself.
That's amazing.
I just remembered I wanted to tell the story different. So I'm y'all know I do this thing called Shiners Nashville, right?
Right.
So I'm doing Shiners Nashville. I've got to do it a bunch. I love it. ShinersNashville.com. Check it out. You're going to want to go to the show. If you don't go to the show, you're missing out. That's on you. Anyways, I'm doing the show one night, and there's this big guy in the crowd. He's probably 6'4", 6'5", and I see him, and big old burly dude. And I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely calling that dude out in the crowd because he's the only other person here that's bigger than me. So I'm up there and I'm doing the part where I'm like with a little bit of because we do it's getting hot in here, so take off, and I am getting so hot I'm gonna take my clothes off with a little bit of and a little bit of anyway. So we do that part. So I call him up and he has to go to his wife, So I get him up there, no big deal. He's fun, he's funny. He goes back and sits down, all this good stuff. Now before the show started, a publicist here in town who is the publicist for the show, Aaron Chrysler, he sends me a message with a picture of a guy that's there. He said, hey, this is my really good friend. Make sure you bring him up on stage. What was another guy? Well, they just happened to be together, him and Todd, which you don't know who Todd is yet. Back that story up. So anyways, he sends me the thing. His name is Adam Corey. He's like, make sure you bring him on stage. So we did bring him on stage for that. After we get done, we go downstairs. After the show's over, we always go down. Everybody has drinks and all that stuff. I don't drink, but go down there, hang out, talk. You get to meet the cast, all that kind of stuff. So I immediately see this group, go over and start talking to them. And I'm talking to this guy. He's like, man, he goes like, you're hilarious, man. I love your style of entertainment. He's like, you just got something. I'd love for you to come play at one of my events in Vegas sometime. I mean, I don't even know what kind of events he did in Vegas, but I love Vegas. I'm like, heck yeah, man, let's go. He goes, well, get my number. I was like, dude, I left my phone upstairs in the dressing room. Let me run upstairs and grab it. He goes, nah, don't worry about that. He goes, I'll just add you on Instagram and I'll send you a message. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, no big deal. This guy, he has events in Vegas, whatever. And so I go up after getting done hanging out, talking, really talking with Adam, all these guys. Go upstairs, get my phone, pull it up, and I see his friend request. So I add him. I go to his page, check him out. It says 1.8 million followers. I'm like, well, dude, who was I talking to? And he had kind of looked familiar. I'm like, maybe I've seen this guy before. So I start looking, and like, he's on the Brad Lee podcast. He's on this podcast and that podcast. And turns out he owns a Formula One team and, all this other stuff. And he's like a really big businessman in Vegas. And so I sent the message. I'm like, dude, I was just checking out your stuff. I was like, I would, truly be honored to come and be part of one of your events. And he just sent me back a thumbs up. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. Maybe he will, maybe he won't.
Thumbs up never gives me the warm and fuzzies.
No, I mean, I was kind of like, but he's a busy dude. I try to keep that in mind. And I'm like this.
Especially not in the bedroom.
I mean, it depends on what you're into.
Hey, honey, you think maybe tonight?
Thumbs up. Boo!
What are we doing?
Okay. I was flashing back to Jamaica. Okay. Anyway, so he sent me the thumbs up. I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe he really was serious. Maybe he just had, how people get excited in the moment. They tell you, I want to do this, and then they never really do.
No, that's never happened to me.
Yeah. Every week. So I'm like, okay. Well, it's like 3 or 4 days later. We were down in Perry County filming the music video for Battleground. It was me and Jared. And we were waiting for them to change from the scene where it was in the field house to where it was on the football field. So I'm sitting there in the car. It's starting to get a little chilly outside. Get on the phone and I call Brad and I start talking to him. Now, Brad is my publicist, Brad Taylor, big machine agency out of New York City. Check him out if you need a good publicist. And I get on there and I start telling him, I said, I met this dude the other night. I was like, dude, he was really cool. I said, he's a big business guy out of Vegas and apparently owns a Formula One team and he's this and this and this. And he said he'd like for me to come and perform at one of his events. And he goes, well, Vinny, who is it? And I said, his name is Todd Alt III. And this is no joke. He goes, well, Vinny, I represent Todd Alt III. I'm like, there's no possible way that me being a musician in Nashville, you're in New York City, he's in Vegas, that we happen to have all the people in the world. I met this one random dude one time that we happen to have the same publicist and we're completely different entities in what we do in the world. He goes, no, you know what's even crazier is I'm literally going to have dinner with him right now as we speak. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, and so when I told the story before, I told you I was going to tell this, I said, man, what are the odds? And Jared looks at me and goes, well, pretty big when you put God in it.
Amen.
And I was like, I've just coined that phrase everywhere I go. I said, well, the odds, you just take out a D and add a G, man. That's when you turn the odds to God and it turns out good. So anyways, he's like, I'm going to have dinner with him right now. He goes, I'm going to call him when I get there. Make sure you answer your phone. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'll answer. Of course I'm going to answer my phone. So he sure enough, he calls me. He puts me on the phone. Hey, somebody wants to talk to you. And the guy gets the phone. Hello. He goes, I said, hey, what's up, man? He goes, who's this? I was like, it's Bigg Vinny. He goes, I don't know a Bigg Vinny. I was like, well, it's Mason Shiner from the play you came to in Nashville the other night. He's like, get the out of here, He's like, how do you know Brad? I said, he's my publicist. He goes, he's my publicist. I was like, I know. He goes, man, what a crazy world. He's like, I've been thinking about you, man. He goes, I was serious about wanting to have you. He goes, tell you what, I'm gonna fly you out and I'll put you up. I want you to come see my event. And so I was just gonna go see the event. I was honored already, and I didn't even know what the dates were. I'm like, I'll be there. I don't know what the dates are. Cool, I'm coming. Luckily, it worked out. But I get a call back from Brad about 3 days later, and because he hangs up and he goes and has dinner or whatever. About 3 days later, he calls me. He's like, okay, Vinny. He's like, so you're going to speak at the event. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He goes, bring your guitar. He goes, I said, oh, am I playing? He goes, I don't know yet, but just in case, bring your guitar. I was like, well, I always do. And he's like, bring your guitar. He goes, and he goes, also, I got you paid. He's going to pay you to come. He loved your story. I told him more about you. Let him know about your Biggest Loser story and a little bit of your childhood and this and that. He wants you to speak on basically overcoming obstacles, things like that. It's the personal growth panel. And the next thing I know, he's like, they tell me, you're going to be on the personal growth panel. You're going to be on here with Neil Ford, who's a pretty big deal. Mikey C-Rock, who also another pretty big deal. And then the person that's going to be running this entire panel is Consuelo Vanderbilt, who is the heiress to the Vanderbilt throne.
Wow.
So I'm like, dang, I'm going to be sitting on stage with these people. It's the first time ever I thought, should I wear overalls or should I get a suit? And I was kind of having that thing. And we talked about this before I left out. And I said, man, having kind of trouble figuring out, do I actually belong there? And you said the thing was called imposter syndrome.
That's right.
And I was like, no, I don't have that. And then I started thinking, I was like, maybe I do. Because I feel like, man, these are people that are different than me, that are, I wouldn't call them out of my league, but they're in a different kind of league than what I'm in. And so I was even talking with my wife about it. My wife said, look, you just need to go and be you. She's like, there's a reason that God has you going there. It might not be to go become this big businessman or make new connections. It might just be because you're going to go out there and you're going to talk about God, and whatever you do, maybe it makes somebody else realize that they can talk about God openly on that stage. That might be all it's for. She's like, but I think God's got something bigger planned for you. So I'm like, okay. So wore my overalls. I'm like, at least going to wear a little bit of a dressy shirt, in which I showed Jared the shirts I bought. Had like little collars.
Had the ribs.
Still t-shirts, had the little ribs on
Yeah.
them, I was looking good. They go up and down. If you're a bigger guy, you don't want to have things going sideways. You got those straps going up and down, makes you look leaner,
But if there is a designer out there, I've been looking for someone to get designer overalls for this guy forever. Like if he could have well, this is what I wear for my fancy overalls. These are my shiny overalls. These are my ripped up overalls. These are my.
I'm feeling fancy.
I don't know if you know. Maybe that's why have you started that market? There's not a big overall market.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not. If you go out today, you might see 3 people in overalls out of 100,000. So I don't know that there's a market for it. I mean, people ask me all the time. I got asked this at the event. So I'm at the event. I'll stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, everybody has
Really?
Yeah, it was. I know that don't happen often. I'm walking around the very first time.
Because you blended in Jamaica like a.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
No one looked at you.
Nope. And Jared says, he goes, I like to just sit back and watch when Vinny enters the room just to see the looks on people's faces. So I stick out like a sore thumb. I'm seeing all these, they all got their suits on and nice.
It's fun as everybody's watched this podcast. You're like, I've never seen him in overalls. You've never worn overalls on here,
I
have
have
you?
a couple times.
I'm pretty sure, but I'm pretty sure that we all look like we just got back from the gym.
That's why
There was one time I wore like my normal clothes, and all of you talked about what a dandy I was the entire
Oh, he
time.
looked fantastic that day.
what a
didn't he?
dandy. You know that word.
That's Lee, the bass player. He always
Oh, what a dandy.
He's always being called a dandy.
I mean, you do got that big old watch on. That watch is worth more than my car.
It's a clock.
It is a clock. You're wearing a clock. Listen, Flavor Flav.
Flavor Flav.
So anyway, I stick out like a sore thumb and all this other stuff. And so people start asking me, so what's the deal with the overalls? Why you wear them overalls? Is that like your get up? I'm like, nah, man, I've been wearing this since I was about 10 years old. They're like, well, what made you start wearing overalls? I was like, well, I was a fat kid. I grew up hauling hay. So I don't know if you know this or not, but when you're a fat kid and you wear blue jeans, your pants fall down and your butt shows all the time. So as I was trying to haul hay and my pants kept coming down, I had to pull them up, which stopped me from grabbing bales faster. Well, you got 10 cents a bale, so you want to throw as many bales as you can, you know what I mean? So I saved up my allowance and I said, I'm going to go buy some overalls. That way when I got my overalls on, they always stay up because they got the suspenders on them, whatever. So I got me some overalls and then it just kind of stuck. I'd wear them to school whenever I was younger. I didn't always wear overalls every day, but I would wear them probably once a week. I'd wear overalls to school. And I always felt like overalls were this symbol of hard work. Anybody that I knew that had overalls, they were a farmer, they were working in construction. Anytime I ever seen somebody in overalls, it's like, oh, that person's going to go work. You know what I mean?
So it was never a crisscross thing.
Never a crisscross thing. I always had both straps on,
Okay.
And then
I've seen him take the straps off though. You've been tonight, so he takes the straps
Oh, I do. I will take the straps off sometime. And I always say this: straps off are better than a strap on. I mean, straps on.
Whoa.
Anyway, no. So it was cool. It gave.
But I'm going to go with he's right.
Yeah. Here's the deal, though. It was like I wasn't going to go as myself. I was going to get a nice shirt, slacks, whatever. I was going to kind of dress the part of being more businessy. And it was my friends and people around me said, "No, go be you."
Yeah, dude.
Go be yourself. And because I did that, it made people want to talk to me more. It made people wonder,
sure.
Who is this guy? What's he doing here? All this kind of stuff. And I got to tell the story. And I told them about, I ended up here by just purely God putting me in the right place at the right time. Now, part of that is I've always been a huge fan of, I've always believed in, you got to be in the right place at the right time. But if you're more places, more times, you're more likely to be in the right place at the right time. So if you're out there working, especially in the music world.
Oh, no, I wound up in a lot of wrong places at wrong times.
Yeah. That can happen.
So it depends on where you're putting your place to find your places.
Refine your places.
You want to find a place that only tells you about good places.
Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes the bad places can lead you to good things. You just didn't realize it was going to happen at the time.
I was never looking for good things when I was in bad places.
No, but you ended up finding them because of the bad things you went through.
But I don't remember them.
Well, then you don't even know that was that.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe it didn't even exist. What is love? Is love love? Are we love? What is art? No, anyways. So I
know a guy named Art.
We do know a guy named Art.
Anyway.
So I ended up meeting all these great people. And as I started talking to them, before I went to the trip, I'd been tagged on a lot of the things because all of a sudden they were advertising. So it was really cool. So next thing you know, I'm getting this deal where, I didn't know when they were signing me up who was going to be there. Next thing I know, they're like tagging me in things with RFK Jr. and Tucker Carlson and Bradley. I'm like, holy crap. But I'll send it to you. You're like, dang it, I want to come, you know? And I know it didn't work out for either of y'all's schedules to come, but next year, no matter what, we all have to go to the RiskOn Festival.
Right.
Or the RiskOn event. So, you know, if you get there and you pay for the big ticket or whatever, you get to go race in the Indy cars. Like you get to drive the Formula One car. Like it's, you know, or you ride in the Formula One, you get to drive the street legals, whatever, you know, the open track kind of thing. But anyway, I go out there, I start meeting these people left and right. Before I'd started posting things, and I noticed a few of the other speakers would follow me. So I followed them back. Well, then, you know, one day I kind of opened up my DMs and I had posted and I tagged a few of the people. And the one girl, Aoife Roche, can't remember I know it's Aoife. I can't remember how to say her last name for sure. But she was from Ireland. She moved here. You know, she moved in 2020 to kind of uprooted her whole life, and all her story was amazing. She's like an AI expert. Like she knows how to use all the AI tools and how to prompt it. And like she's explaining this stuff to me, which was way over my head. But she was so sweet and nice. And then she's going to actually end up working with my wife. So it's like there's one thing already. It was like just meeting
I'm
this
sorry.
one person.
I was thinking about Vinny meeting with his AI expert. It was only like 2 months ago that he found that AI wasn't a word.
I didn't let her know.
That's why I was over here chuckling a little bit. Like, I wonder if he told her the story.
My brain first went to like thinking about this AI when he said it's over my head. It was like, just think about this AI person. Like, you know who I should explain this to? The guy in overalls. I bet he'll understand all of this. You know,
Yeah,
not knowing that the guy in overalls a month prior to this thought AI was a word.
AI.
AI.
AYEEEEEEEE is a word. So
It is now.
I did not explain to her that I didn't know that AI was not, that it was an acronym or whatever. Ain't you impressed that I know what an acronym is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, okay. Anyway. So you know, next thing you know, I'm talking with her, you know, we had chatted back and forth and it's like, yeah, she's like, you know, if you need any help when you're out here, she goes, I know everybody. I'm like, cool. Yeah. Well, then this other guy named Mikey C-Rock, he ends up sending me a message like, hey man, can't wait to be on we're going to be on the same panel. So I can't wait to meet you, you know, love what you're doing, you know, checked out your stuff today. And, you know, I go check out his thing. He's got like almost 2 million followers and he does a lot of motivational stuff. He has his own brand. And part of what he does is he books podcasts. So he's the one that like sets up for, you know, if you want to get on more podcasts, if you have a business and you want to get on and tell your story more, he books podcasts and all that kind of stuff. He also does, you know, tons of stuff with social media and all these other things. So start meeting and talking with him. He's got this great story. And find out he's already been on the Brad Lee podcast on dropping bombs, all this other stuff. Like, so he immediately became friends with me. We started chatting back and forth, gave me his cell phone number. So already before I even take out to go out there, I've already met 2 incredible people, you know, and, get out there, start meeting more people, start hanging out. Met this guy, Richard Coletti, and he owns like a big solar company down in Florida. We ended up becoming friends, swapping information. Then I met this guy named Ken Jocelyn, and Ken owns, I think it's the largest or the fastest growing faith-based podcast. And then also he helped create one of the fastest growing faith churches and stuff down in Birmingham, Alabama, and all this other stuff. And he was a preacher himself and didn't want to be in control of the church anymore, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And just a really great guy, but he helps put together events and faith-based events and things like that. So I ended up becoming friends with him. He's already asked me to come speak at one of his events. That event I couldn't do because it's January the 9th in Atlanta. Go check it out. Gary Brecka is going to be there speaking. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyways, already these great things have started happening, you know, from this deal. And I haven't even spoke yet. I haven't even done anything yet, you know? So what I knew was if I got a chance to be on the stage, to be heard, you know, I was going to be able to shine because that's where I shine is whenever I'm on stage. I mingled and met with people and all that. When it comes to our time to get up and go be on the stage and do our, you know, I guess you'd call it a panel is what it was called. And so basically Consuelo would ask a question and she would aim the question towards each one of us individually. Mm-hmm. That way we all had time to speak when we were up there. And you know, the questions that came to me, you know, they were, you know, kind of ranged from different parts, but it gives you a chance to tell your story. So it was like, what was the biggest thing you had to overcome in your life or whatever? And I got to tell my parts of my story and it really resonated with the crowd. And I just decided before I got up there, I'm like, hey, no matter what today, when I tell my story, I'm going to talk about Jesus Christ. No matter what. I was like, I'm going to make sure that my message that comes across is there because I feel like that's what I was put here to do. And so when the first thing comes out there and they're like, hey, introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself. And I go in this thing, I was like, my name's Bigg Vinny, I tell a little bit about myself. And I said, and then you had to tell what your main goal in life was and this and that. And I was like, my main goal is to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, is to make sure I let people know that I believe, that I love him. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but it means that every day I want
Bold
to
statement.
Sure, yeah. I want to make sure that people know that that's what I stand for. And the whole crowd.
And they're like, are you a pastor? And he's like, no, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
A Christian musician? No. No. In fact, my most famous song was called Rockin' the Beer Gut.
It's about girls with beer guts. No.
I'm spreading Jesus in a different way.
Yeah. And so everybody clapped, and I was surprised. Some people were like, "Man," people come up to me even after we spoke, and there was more parts where I got to tell a story about what I went through as a kid and some of that. But people come up to me and say, "Man, it just means so much that you were willing to stand up there and openly talk about Jesus Christ." And I'm like, that's the reason that I have to do it more.
Right. But doesn't that tell you, once again, like this theory that I've had for a while, the media has told us that we're not supposed to talk about this. The media has told us that people don't like hearing about it.
Yeah.
But every time I do it, no one has ever come up to me and been like, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. I've never received it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to think really, really more like, I think that most people do relate to those things. And, even we know a couple people that are very anti Christ in any way, but they still show us respect for our beliefs.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's more important for us to keep spreading that message. Like, I'm not telling you that you need to go out and talk about Jesus all the time, but I am telling you that if you feel that you should pray right now, or you feel that you should pray for someone, or you should tell them a story about what you learned, if you want to talk about it, let's get rid of this idea that people are going to hate you for it. And even if they did, what'd you lose?
Yeah, nothing.
But I just don't see that happening. How many schools have we talked about it in now? How many different places? How many stages? And never once has anyone came up and been like, maybe really uncomfortable that you started talking about Jesus.
It only happened to me once when I had Jesus in a bar at the Tin Roof.
Yeah, but that was over money. They were like, we lost one of our people because you guys were bringing Jesus in.
Which was weird because I brought him 100 people that night.
Let me tell you this, because one of my favorite stories on Vinny is that his response when they said, we just don't think we should have Jesus in a bar again. And Vinny was like, well, then you shouldn't have me because Jesus lives in me.
Yeah.
Amen. Let him have it.
And then he continued to book Jesus in a bar.
Yeah. I booked whatever I wanted to. I was like,
no, okay. People need to know Jesus in a Bar was actually just a group of singer-songwriters that would get together and they would sing songs they'd written about Jesus, Christian faith-based songs. And that was the theme of the night. These guys also wrote a bunch of other, songs for country music, rock, pop, whatever. But these were just their faith-based songs, and that's how the night was.
Yeah,
we have had charity-based nights where at first it was debated on whether we would bring enough Jesus to the crowd, to the party, because they see us coming and they're like, oh shit, these dudes are about to throw down and party and be about everything but Jesus. And then the next thing you know, they're handing in donations of rather large sums because they realize that that's what
we just out there turning water into wine, son.
That'd have been nice back in the day.
Anyway, so it's like, I got this chance to do that. I made sure, and it was baffling to me. It's like, I would have thought they'd come up, and a lot of them did say, man, it's so awesome that you overcome that childhood or that you went through those things. And, it's awesome that you lost that weight and all that other stuff. And then some of those said that, but overwhelmingly responses like, it's so awesome that you were willing to stand up there and talk about Jesus that openly. I'm like, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, if you're a Christian, you should too. And hopefully, if nothing else comes from that, which already great things have already come from this whole entire trip, but if nothing else came from it other than one of these people just decided, hey, you know what, I'm going to be more outspoken about Jesus, then I feel like that's what God put me there for.
Off topic a little bit, but it was the pastor's sermon a couple Sundays ago. I was curious, like while he was talking, I was like, man, half this congregation is going to walk out just any minute because he was just laying it on hard.
Yeah.
He was stepping on him toes. He said, the reason that people think that they don't like Christians, or the reason that people have such a bad impression of Christianity, is because, and he was like, and I'm speaking to you, church. He was like, because most of you sitting here aren't.
Yeah.
He was like, most of you will talk about God here.
Yeah.
And he's like, but most of you don't crack your Bible for anything.
Yeah.
Most of you aren't trying to tell people about Jesus. Most of you aren't trying to become better He was like, you're just here because you were told that that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to church on Sunday.
Show face.
And you give a little money and you do. He's like, but you're not living a Christ-like.
Yeah.
You're not trying to live Christ-like. He was like, if you were, people would have a very, very different look on Christianity. They would be like, wow, those are amazing people. He said, whole group of people are amazing. You know, it was like, you want to be what the other people can't be. There's a reason why you're accomplishing something that they're not. It's because you have Jesus. And if they're just as good as you, then what is Jesus to you then? You know, if they're not doing anything, you're not doing anything different than them. But that's what you're doing there too. And I think that Christians have been beat down. You think about like the devil's a master of chaos. He doesn't have to convince you there's no God. He's just got to convince you that you don't need to talk about him. He's got to scare you into submission, you know, to keep you from moving. And that's what you did out there. You know, you woke up a whole lot of people and went, yeah, you can go do this too.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen to you. What is going to happen to you? But we're so afraid we're going to lose our job. We're going to lose our podcast. You're going to lose your music career, whatever. I mean, I say bring it on. Cancel me because I'm positive I'll be more famous than I am right now if you try to cancel me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was just one of those things where it was cool to see that response. And I didn't care what response I got. I was going to be, and once I decided I'm going to be fully Bigg Vinny, I was fully Bigg Vinny. You know, I mean, everything
blows my mind that you had to decide that because I've never seen you have to decide.
I think that's what he said. You know, it's one of those things where I started looking at the guest list and I'm like, man, what do I have in
but I've never seen you intimidated by anybody.
That's a big lineup.
I don't know if it was
I understand that.
I don't know if
but
I don't know if it was what I would call intimidation. I think it was more just like, how am I going to connect with these people? You know what I mean? Like trying to figure out.
Like wondering if the audience was going to be a different thing.
The crazy, because like I said, but dude, they connected with me so well, and I connected with them so well. And as I got to hearing their stories, I'm like, every one of these people was like, dude, I was the one guy, Richard Coletti, that I met from down in. He lives down in Fort Lauderdale, I think is where he's from, or Miami one. But as I started talking to him, he's like, man, I was down and out. I was busted. I had, divorce, and I had all this stuff I was going through. And man, I was down to not hardly making any money and this and that. And then I started working this, or I started doing this over here. And then I went and learned about AI once again. And now I own the solar company. And he goes, I took my company from, barely breaking $1 million to being a 7-figure company now, or 8-figure company now, or whatever, tens of millions of dollars that they make every year. And I just thought that was incredible, and I just realized I had so much in common. Almost everybody I met that was successful had been through some kind of childhood trauma, divorce, failed businesses, so many failed businesses. Like, oh, dude, I was like, oh, so you made this business and it's just been going away. It's like, oh yeah, but I had like 7 businesses before this that went bankrupt and failed. And he goes, and that was what Risk On 360 was about how you have to be willing to risk. He goes, and then of course they cleared it. It's like, we're not telling you to go out there and risk your family's, child, if you got kids at home, go risk everything and go broke and not have anything. But what we're saying is if you've got $30,000, in an account and you're just sitting there holding on to it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't let this money go anywhere, then you're doing the wrong thing with that money. That money should be out there in a way that can help you make more money. He's like, the people that you meet that are wealthy, their money is not just sitting there in a bank account. He goes, not in the beginning anyway.
I mean, that's even biblical too. You're talking about the talents that you were given, and God, gave 10, 3, and 1. I think it was to different people. Yeah. And the guy that he gave 1 to buried it in the ground so that he made sure that he had what he owed God when he came back. And I was like, why'd you do this? It's such a waste. I gave you something to grow and to prosper with. And you did nothing with it. So people look at it different,
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those deals where when I was out there and I'm meeting these people and realizing how much I had in common with them, realizing and I've been successful and I've done a lot of great things, and I'm getting into the whole, investment kind of deal where we're trying to figure that out. We're taking that gamble right now. We're taking that risk with my wife's business. We went and quit the job that was making $120,000, $130,000 a year for her and said, okay, let's throw that out here. You're going to give up over $10,000 a month, which at the time we thought we was only giving up like $6,000 a month. Ended up being more like $12,000 or $14,000 a month that we had to give up. But we were taking that stride. It was like, hey, let's give it up. let's go build your own company. Let's go make this thing happen. And then we put, probably 30 plus grand into this business and starting to grow it. Now you're starting to see it grow. Now she's got, 40 or 50 monthly, subscribers, things like that. And it's growing, but it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to be willing to say, hey, we're going to have to, live a little bit, under what our means are, what we think we should have. And watching all these people, and it helped me just revitalize that spirit of like, no, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right path. And so as much as I think God put me there to teach a lesson, I was also put there to learn a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever in my life, I sat down and took notes. Like in college, I never took notes. Class, I never took notes. I literally sat there and I was writing out things that people were saying, how they did certain things. They had, I think it was Jim Myers, who was one of the head of Sirius XM, and he started talking about how they grew that program and all that. I'm sitting there taking notes and thinking, hey, could you put me on all your stations with my music? But I got a lot of really interesting chances to have conversations while I was out there. I met this guy named Ben Mala. And Ben Mala is one of the biggest real estate investors down in Tampa, Florida. And your wife might even know him. I don't know. But he is one of Hulk Hogan's best friends. And his Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South, actually lives at his house with him. And so he's invested in all these different things. We'll end up talking to him. I was like, he's like, yeah, he goes, I had a club called Hogan's Beach Club with Hulk down in Tampa. I was like, oh, dude, I said, I played Hogan's Beach. He's like, you did? I was like, yeah, I said, I played Hogan's Beach. I said, back in, I think it was 2015, maybe. I said, I did a thing called Boots on the Beach. I said, us and Love and Theft. And, I think Kane and Smith came that night, Trent Tomlinson, a few others. I was like, we had a great crowd. He goes, well, you played my club then, so next thing you know, we have that in common. We're chatting. He ends up giving me his number saying, you ever come down to Tampa, let me know. He goes, if you find anything, great investments and properties, all real estate stuff. He goes, you let me know. He goes, that's what I do. He goes, I don't want to do no work though. He's like, I do plenty of that down there with my own company. He goes, but if you find something you think is good, send it to me. I'll look it over, So, I mean, it was just those little things right there open up doors for you. And I had come home and I told Jared, I said, dude, this thing was great for me because I got to meet a lot of people. I said, but honestly, with all the stuff you're doing in real estate and everything that you're working on, I think I met people that are going to end up helping, work with y'all more than it would even work with me. And then Jared being the guy it is, he goes, well, it just work with both of us, because I don't know that much about real estate and all that kind of stuff. But if I can bring a deal to the table, and that's what some of when Brad Lee was up there talking, he goes, I like to make a lot of money. He goes, and I like to risk other people's money to do that.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he goes, I'm not telling you to go out there and scam somebody. What I'm saying is if you're the kind of guy that can go out there and find opportunities, but you don't have the money to do it, he goes, all you have to do is help sell it to this, to this guy that does have the money and then make it to where it's easy for him. And he's like, and when you do that, he goes, I'm that guy. He goes, if you have a great real estate deal, if you find something that's got 20 doors on it, what they call it doors or whatever, where it's got like units, he's like, bring it to me. He goes, and you handle the filling it up with people and you handle this and that. He goes, I'll put the money up. And he goes, and I'll make you a partner and all this other stuff. He goes, because I don't got time for it. He goes, but what I do have is the money to back that kind of thing, So it was just cool to see all these people. They're like, they want to work with other people. They want to help other people get to where they're at. And that was one thing I wasn't expecting. I was thinking, okay, when you got a guy that's rich, he's trying to figure out how to make sure he keeps getting richer.
Yeah.
But the true success happens when they're able to help other people reach the next level of potential. So as I'm getting talking to Brad, and I'd heard some of this story, but I didn't realize how much he had to do with Grant Cardone's career and how much he helped him when he created Lightspeed VT, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And how they take those programs and teach people how to duplicate the sales and all these other things. So like I said, all that stuff was great and made a lot of great connections. But the cool thing was, I got put in a room. One of the cool things, I got several of them. I get put in this room and I'm on hold waiting to go do an interview. And all of a sudden they walk in and there's security guards and stuff coming in. They bring in RFK Jr. and they walk in. And so now it's just me, my publicist, him, his personal assistant, and then his security team kind of surrounding the room. And I get to sit there and have like a 15-minute conversation with RFK Jr. And he was such a nice guy, such down to earth, just really humble, wanted to know about me, asked me about myself, and didn't just ask me and kind of be like this. I mean, he asked me like intently, was looking at me and talking with me about this thing. And of course I told him about the weight loss stuff and all that. He goes, dang, he's like, well, you've done a great job. And this guy's incredibly fit.
Did he close you?
He tried. Actually, he didn't try. His assistant tried. So as we're sitting there talking, I said, I agree with a lot of the things that, that you talk about. I said, I think you're great. Really, really great dude. He is a really great dude. And then the girl said, she's like, so we got your vote then. Kind of, she said it in jest, but I was like, nah. And they're like, huh? But I thought you said he was great. I was like, I think he's great. I said, we don't agree on everything. I was like, not that you're going to agree with anybody on everything. I was like, but I think, my mind's made up. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm going to be that guy. And I don't care to say it right here. Hey, I'm voting for Trump. You don't like it, I don't care. But anyways, he actually appreciated the fact that I was honest. And then as we got to talking, they're like, well, hey, would you be willing to help with any kind of fundraising or this or that? Because they don't want to let him on the ballot. He has to get 1 million signatures or something like that before they'll allow him to be on the ballot. Well, obviously,
right?
They're going to get that. I think they probably already got it. But they were trying to keep him from being on the ballot. He's the only one, I think you were the one that told me this, that they wouldn't give him private security. He didn't get, he's the only one that's a nominee that's not got, what's it called? Special security, whatever, from the government.
CIA.
Secret Service.
Yeah, Secret Service. There you go. CIA.
He's the only one that they didn't give secrets. Yeah. Don't get, as we've learned in recent things, don't put the CIA on a Kennedy, okay? We've learned that. But anyway, so it was cool sitting there talking with him and having that conversation. I was just honest with him because I'm like, and then like, well, hey, when we come to Nashville and do something, would you be willing to help do, come and play music, be part of the fun? I was like, heck yeah, man. I was like, I think you should be on the ballot. I was like, I believe that there should be able to be, if you're running for president, I mean, Kanye was on the ballot the last time I voted here in Tennessee. So, I mean, I didn't vote for him, but, he was on the ballot.
Supposed to be on the ballot again this time, right?
Come on with it, really? Kanye.
I think so, yeah.
Huh? All I know is when The Rock runs, I might vote for him.
You think?
Nah, I'm just kidding. But, I mean, it'd be cool to look and see. Like,
Hulk Hogan, though.
Will it say, if it was on the ballot, would it say Dwayne The Rock Johnson as the candidate?
Surely not.
Would he run as an independent or would he run
President
as a
Rock.
Republican or a Democrat?
He runs with Oprah Winfrey, right? So he's Democrat.
They could really play on that rock.
I've seen him both sides. I've seen him dance on both sides. I've seen him get hate from the Democratic side for taking one stance. I've seen him get hate on the Republican side for taking a stance. I don't hate anybody. I love everybody. That's who I am. Except for pedophiles. I got no love for those.
No room for that.
No, I like to stomp their heads in.
Yeah.
Stomp your head in, pedophile. Anyway.
It's going to hurt.
Yeah, I got a big foot and it's heavy. But anyway, so I got to have that great conversation with him. I told him I absolutely, and I think they should be on the ballot and they should have that chance. There's no doubt about it. And I think he's got enough following. He might disrupt what's going on. Who knows, Yeah. I mean, because he came from the Democrat side, but obviously got just tortured because he didn't support the jab. He didn't support a lot of different things. He's in full support of getting our immigration process in order, getting the border to the way it should be, where it should be, crossing legally and all that. This dude, I mean, he's got a lot of great things. And so I won't get into the whole things we didn't agree on, but I think he's got a lot of great things to offer. So I got that one-on-one time with a guy like him that's basically royalty. Like if you can think of American royalty, the Kennedy family would be one of the closest things you could have to that. So I got that conversation with him. I got to meet Tucker Carlson. I think I was the second person to get my picture with him. As I come walking up, once again, the overalls, I come walking up to him. He goes, golly, he's like, can I borrow some of them biceps? He goes, I need something. He goes, I need you to give me a couple inches. And I was like, anyway.
Is his laugh as we see on TV?
It's exactly. And when it brings joy to you. Like I wasn't expecting that because, when you kind of watch him, he can seem kind of, smart aleck, pompous, whatever kind of deal. He was so nice. He was jovial. He was funny. When he laughs, when he does that, like it's just like that. And it's like you literally fill the whole room up.
Yeah.
And so he ended up being a great guy. I talked to him for a minute, maybe a minute and a half, something like that. He, made a couple of comments about how big my arms were in the overalls. I told him he was from Tennessee. He talked about how much he loved Tennessee. He was cool. He was an awesome dude,
Intelligent.
Very.
He was so smart.
Very quick.
Yeah.
Don't miss a beat of anything. But for me, getting to meet Brad Lee was the cool thing for me because I have been listening to this dude. I kind of heard about him on Clubhouse when that app first came out, during the COVID years. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're still in the COVID years. One of our friends got COVID today. But I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him and I was giving him a little bit of rundown. I was like, I said, I actually heard about you. I said, we ended up speaking on a couple of the same panels. I called it panels now because I know panels. pages, whatever you want to call it, on Clubhouse. And I said, one of the things I liked about you is there was another entrepreneur. I won't say his name because I don't give him any credence, but very big money guy was on there. And these people, they would do these places every night where you could pitch your business to get funded by one of these big multimillionaires. And they had John Legree on there, who was like the head of T-Mobile. And then they had this other guy who I won't say, and Brad Lee was there. Grant Cardone was there.
It's like Shark Tank, but for Clubhouse.
Huge. I mean, these guys are billionaires, some of them. And people get to come on and pitch their business, and they would listen to the business and all this. Well, most everybody would say, hey, they would give good advice. Like, here's where you're going to run into issues. You might want to check this out. Even if they weren't going to invest in it, they would give them a little bit of knowledge and advice. Well, this one guy would be like, that's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. You're gonna drown all your money away. That's dumb. Blah. Like, would tell people, he goes, you're a moron. Like, would say that kind of stuff to people. And one night when he was in the middle of doing that, Brad Lee goes, and Brad's a matter of fact guy. If you ever watch his podcast, he's matter of fact. And he's like, he just lights into this dude. And he goes, maybe you don't remember what it's like investing in your first thing. He's like, or coming up with your first idea and this and that. Of course, these guys are going to have things they're going to have to work on to make it great. They haven't ever done this. They're just now learning. He's like, you're not here to tell them how stupid they are. You're here to let them know, hey, these are the dangers of what you're getting into. And he did that. And then Grant Cardone also spoke up and said something to him. And it really made me have an affinity for those two guys. And like I said, I haven't met Grant. I don't know him, any kind of personal relationship. I've just recently met Brad. So I don't know these guys on a personal level. But the fact that I saw them take up, and this guy was nervous as he could be that was speaking, that they took up, and they did say, hey, what he is saying is true. You want to watch out for this and this. This is where you could get hurt by this business. These are the things you might want to look at before you put all your money into that. There's like, he's not telling you the wrong information. It's just the delivery of the way he's telling you.
Yeah.
And obviously when Brad gets into some of his stuff, he'll be very matter of fact, but he's also teaching you something. So it was like if he was being an asshole, but then teaching you something, but he was like, he wouldn't give them a solution. He would just tell them how stupid they were. And so that really made me like him. So I started following him on Instagram. That led me to the Dropping Bombs podcast. So getting to sit there and talk with him, we end up chatting back and forth. And I would have never asked for his number or any of that stuff in a million years because if he didn't offer it, I wouldn't have asked. Well, I was there with my publicist, Brad, who said, this thing has ended up being one of the best things I ever invested money in because Brad was sitting there. He's like, you should have him on your podcast. He goes, well, let's do it then. I was like, holy crap. I was like, well, he goes, yeah. He goes, well, I said, well, you want me to send you a message on Instagram or something? No, just get my cell phone number. And he just offers me a cell phone number. I was like, holy crap. Now my publicist also just said he was on Biggest Loser, lost 211 pounds. He's like, just all this. He was signed by Toby Keith. And he performed music. He's been, top 20 or top 10 on CMT and this and that. I'm nominated for, like he's giving the whole rundown right there, which I would never do for myself.
Right.
I would never sit there and be like, hey, I've done these things,
He was earning his paycheck.
Yeah. So right there, he gave me his cell phone number. Next thing I know, I'm like sitting there chatting with him. And I'm kind of, where that little bit of doubt, tries to creep in. I was kind of like, well, he's never going to answer the text. I sent him a text and we took a picture together. So I sent him the picture and he answers back and said, hey, goes, cool, man. Can't wait to connect tomorrow. Let's see if we can get into the podcast tomorrow. So he was trying to figure out how to get me in to do the podcast while I was already out there. So it didn't cost me money to come back out and do the thing. And he's like, man, he goes, I just can't see how I can get it in today or tomorrow while you're here. He goes, I hate for you to have to, pay money and fly back out. I was like, dude, I don't care. I was like, I'll pay the money. I'll come back out there, fly out there to come do it. So anyway, so we're in the process now trying to figure out a date that works with this ankle surgery I'm about to have.
I'm going.
Dude, so when he first started talking about Bradley, you guys brought it up when we first started. I had no idea who you were talking about.
Yeah.
And then I was like, who again? And he sent me something on him. I was like, I've been watching this guy on TikTok for like 2 years.
Yeah, you didn't even know. Yeah. Well, because sometimes you say Bradley and they're like, who's Bradley? I'm like, no, Bradley.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, who's Bradley? I'm like, no, Brad. Space. Lee.
He's got the one viral video that I think everybody's seen where he's on like a Zoom with two younger kids. I think one male, one female. And he asked them, you can have $10 million today, but you don't get to wake up tomorrow. Are you taking it?
Yeah.
And they're both like, Yeah. And he's like, so you're saying your life is worth more than $10 million tomorrow? Something. It goes something like
waking
that, right?
up tomorrow is worth more than $10 million.
Yeah.
And
that thing has it's still flying. I'm sure. There's no
it's
telling how
huge.
many
And
millions.
think about that advice. And a lot of stuff in this world is like has been said in a certain way, but I think when you take it and you put it into that perspective, because people wake up every day and they're like, man, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nobody. I ain't got this. But you woke up.
Yeah.
The fact that you woke up is worth more than $10 million. It's worth more than $100 million. Because if you had $100 million today, but you knew you couldn't wake up tomorrow, why would you take it?
Why would you take it? Yeah.
And unless you're going to go have the greatest 24 hours of the history of life, I mean,
it'd be a strong 24, but it's only 24.
Yeah.
You can't even come.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Well, and I think I've seen some
You
other
can buy the Lamborghini. Not going to go very far.
Not gonna drive it very long.
You might get 800 miles, But no, it's just, it was really cool to speak with him. Such a straightforward dude. I'm even when he was up there speaking, like he don't hold nothing back when he's up there speaking, and his advice I use on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I go through and use that. So, I'm looking forward to doing that, and didn't know it was going to lead. I didn't know what that was going to lead to. I didn't know all of a sudden, performing as Mason Shiner one night was going to lead me to meeting these people who we're going to be working with, lead me to these people that we're going to end up speaking at or playing music at their events and all that kind of stuff. But what I realize is everything that me and Jared do, you do on a daily basis, money doesn't change that. Relationships do. So the more relationships you have, and this is something Brad said, he goes, the more hands you shake, the more money you make.
That's right.
You got to go out there and meet people because every single thing is going to lead us. They need the talents that I have for entertainment at their events, the things that they do. My story resonates with these people. Jared's story will resonate with these people. Your story. I mean, as you're getting into, I know you go to a lot of these type of events. I know you go to Texas like every week. So
last weekend.
Yeah. And so it's like you have these great stories to tell. I have stories to tell. He has stories to tell and share those things. The only way that you're gonna grow what you're doing is to meet more people. Mm-hmm. Even every day when I'm on there posting on social media, I had this bad outlook on social media for a little while. I don't know if it was a bad outlook, but just the wrong outlook. And my outlook was, oh man, I posted that video and it only got to 500 people, but that's 500 people. I mean, how happy would I be tonight if I went to a show in Dallas and 500 people showed up to see me?
Yeah.
So it's giving you the chance to be seen, be heard, even if it's 100 to 200 or 500, or some of these videos we've got now that have almost 1 million, views or whatever. And so just trying to look at it from that standpoint of that's 100 people that may not have ever seen you if you hadn't posted.
We do have another one that hit 1 million for the record.
We have a second one that hit 1 million?
We do have a second one that's hit 1 million. And the comment section, again, is on fire.
Dude.
Which one is
it? Let's have another episode. I saw him actually, the guy you're talking about. What was it?
Oh, yeah, he said he saw you at the
I saw him at the airport the other day. Justin.
Yeah. Video kicks.
Yeah.
It took me for a minute. He waved, and my wife's like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "I'm trying to remember." And she was like, "How do you forget a guy with a neck tattoo?" And I was like, "It's valid." I don't know.
And face.
He covered literally head to toe. Yeah,
and probably one of the best smiles I've ever seen.
Then I looked down and saw his shoes, and I was like, "Oh, that's the shoe guy."
That's the shoe guy. Yeah. No, it's the comment section is.
Which one is it?
It's where he is kind of speaking to the difference between a federal indictment, state charges, local charges.
Oh,
and
really?
In its comments, just based on appearance, very judgmental. And where they don't get the whole story or take the time to listen.
Go listen to the whole
message.
podcast, yeah.
Yep, and it's just immediately, who's this clown? Or, of course you're guilty. Look at your face tattoos. Oh
yeah, that's how you decide guilt.
Yeah.
Face tattoo.
Yeah. So it's. He actually called me last night. He just bought a home, and he's super excited. He's done a complete remodel on the outside of it.
Did you do the mortgage?
I did do the mortgage.
Oh, yes. Come on with it.
Yeah.
See.
So
shake more hands.
Yeah, shake more hands, make more money. Yeah. But he called me last night to tell me his excitement about the completion of the outside of the home, and he was going to send me pictures this morning, post them this morning, and he goes, and man, by the way, I'm used to them comments on all these reels. He said I'm super used to it because his company and his personal pages have such a massive following. And he said, so don't feel like you have to keep defending me, because he apparently had seen where some of it I was like, come on, man. Like, what's wrong with y'all? And he said, so just know, like, we just got to keep it moving. And he's not wrong. He's right. But we could spend a whole nother hour.
What, speaking on that, though, has anybody seen Drew Baldridge with the post about his wife and kids? Santa? Oh, dude, I was glad he did it because Drew's just he's just a very loving person.
Wow, you can't hardly find nobody
good Christian dude. He just loves people, and he had posted a picture of him and his kid and his wife with Santa. Well, the baby's baby doesn't necessarily want to sit on Santa's lap, so mom sat on Santa's lap with the baby, and he's just there with it. Well, she's wearing, probably when she was standing up, I'm guessing the skirt was a little above her knee. So when she sits down, quite a bit of legs showing. She's a very attractive girl. And immediately these comments just go nuts, just talking trash about this trashy mom and like, is she even wearing pants?
Wow.
And all what Santa's
just
thinking,
so you know,
like,
if you've never met his wife, she's like the female version of him, like the nicest.
Oh, I'm sure.
Sweetest person.
I was positive of that, but like immediately, and I think some of the comments even talked about her boobs. Like they just went on with this, and he posts this thing. He's in his hotel room, and he was like, "I'm just trying to figure out what is going through any of your minds. What have I ever said to any of you in any hateful way?" He was like, and why are you on my page if you don't like me or my wife? And then he shows the pictures and he starts going through the comments and circling them on the screen. So you see, like, this person says this. This person says this. This person said,
put them on blast.
Call them out. And he's
put
like,
them on blast, baby.
Why? And this is the whole mainly point. He's like, why are you here? Why are you doing this to people? What were we doing to you? And he talks about, how amazing his wife is. And he's like, why would you talk that way about people? And it's like, I was proud of him because he didn't do anything hateful. He was just like putting them in their place, like almost parenting them. Like, this is what you did. Do you see what you did?
Yeah. What's funny is even when
you're grounded.
When it comes to Justin, you think about this. This is a guy that's saying,
but it blew my mind because it was like, it was a little bit of leg. That's really all it was. That's the only thing you could find in the picture that you could possibly.
I guess they never been to the beach.
And no thought of like how sweet this individual was.
Yeah.
Well,
what I was just going to say is it kind of blows my mind because it's like, this is a dude with Justin that went to prison, sold the crack, did all these things. He's now become an active member of society with a great business, a God-fearing and God-loving man who's spreading the message of Jesus, who's out there selling shoes and helping people find that one shoe. And I'm not a big sneakerhead. I just want shoes that make my feet not hurt, but he's out there doing stuff. And
I want all the sneakers.
Yeah, he does.
Right,
he's a sneaker guy.
So I know you do.
But it baffles me because I'm like, you would think that your whole deal would be you want those people to become better people. But now this guy's become a better person. He's doing great things in life. He's doing great things for people. And even if he wasn't doing good things for he's not robbing people or selling drugs anymore.
He's raising six kids. Most aren't his.
Yeah. And so it's
they are now. But.
So, and obviously I know they only see that one little piece, but it's like, if this is a guy that's saying, man, this is what I went through and now I'm doing better. Why would anybody want to come in? Oh, you stupid idiot with the face tattoos. You probably deserve to go back to jail.
Well, come on, dude. I mean, like not long ago, you were literally up at 4:30 in the morning and working out. And then someone was like, yeah, it looks like you're getting on that fat back. Like, dude, you were in bed when I was working out.
I knew your daddy. I'm like, okay.
So it means you get to be an asshole.
Yeah. But it is. It's just amazing to me. Like, here's a dude that is actually getting better. I even look back and obviously, Michael Vick. You think about Michael Vick, dude did some terrible stuff to these dogs. I mean, it was bad. When you read the stuff that he did, he lost millions and millions of dollars. He went to prison for 3 to 4 years. I think it was 2 to 3 years, whatever it was. Went to prison, served his time, paid millions upon millions in fines, lost all of his NFL contracts, all of his endorsements. He was one of the biggest stars in the league. Loses all that, comes back, gets another chance at the NFL. People are like, he don't deserve another chance. I'm like, well, hang on a second. I agree he should have went to prison. I agree what he did was wrong. But he served his time and did what his punishment was, and now he's here. He doesn't deserve to be put down for the rest of his life, because of the mistakes he made.
And if we're going to get into deserve, what do any of us actually deserve?
Deserve? Yeah. So I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm like, this guy served his time. He did his things. He lost more money. He lost more money in that one instance than you'll ever make in your entire existence of life. And now he's reformed. He's better. He now started an entire charity for dogs that helps, literally like give dogs homes and takes care of them and all this other stuff. And like I said, what he did was terrible, but he served his time. He did this stuff, and now he's becoming a better human being. And it always baffled me when they would have him on, I think it was ESPN or maybe it was Fox Sports or whatever it was. They'd have him on as an analyst, and they'd post something on social media about him. All these people are like, he's a dog murderer. He's this and that. He deserves death. I'm like, well, hang on a second. Like, he served his time. He did, he did these things, and admitted to them and served his time and did his stuff. And now he's trying to become a better human. Anytime I think somebody's trying to become a better human and they actively are doing it. Now, if they're saying, yeah, I want to try and be better, but then they're still out there, if he was still out there stringing up dogs and electrocuting them, no, send him back to jail. But if he's actively out there doing great things and good things for that community and he's served his time, then it's time to forgive him and let him become that better person. The same thing with the Jelly Roll post, obviously, and that thing started, I don't know what happened that one day, all of a sudden, so people started saying, no, he's a false prophet. And people started arguing back against it. I'm like, first off, you didn't watch the rest of the podcast, obviously, because we talk about how it does say you're supposed to go and sin no more, but it also doesn't say you're ever going to be perfect or anything else. God in the Bible used sinners to take his message all the time. So even if his only thing was he's out there talking about Jesus Christ and it causes somebody to come read the Bible and see it, and I even said it in the post, I'm like, I don't even know what his daily walk is or what he's doing on a daily basis, but I do know that he's willing to give Jesus the glory for the things that he's accomplishing and going through and becoming a better person. So even if his daily walk isn't that of a perfect Christian, which none of us are, he's still spreading the word of God in the name of Jesus. Even if he's the worst sinner in the world, maybe, I don't know what his judgment will be, but he's still spreading the name of Jesus and letting people know that it exists and that it's out there, that it's something that's helped him. And so it's just funny to me. It's like, you literally are the example of everything I'm saying in this thing of, like, you think you're so high and mighty. Don't act like you ain't got some skeletons hanging in that closet, buddy. Anyways, I get fired up.
Yeah.
So Vegas, we got far away from Vegas.
But it all ties back to Vegas.
It is all tied.
It's all about relationships.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just want to know top moment. If you had to pick one, and I know there's lots of them, but if you could only have one of them back.
Gosh, my top moment. I believe it would have to be when they gave me the opportunity to get on stage and sing, because that's where I shine. You know what I mean? I mean, I do great on the speaking deal, but in that time I got up there, Todd Alt, the guy that put on the entire thing, guy's incredible, just great human, but he was the one that gave me the opportunity. And so he had just told me, like, the night before that I believe it's his mom right now is going through Alzheimer's. And they're dealing with that and trying to work through that. And so I was able to get up there and dedicate my Mammy song about Alzheimer's to him. And he came up and gave me a big hug afterwards. He's like, man, what a song, thank you for playing that. And so I dedicated that song to him. And then I got to talk about my dad and sing Simple Man, tell a little bit of that story. And two of my favorite songs to perform, I got to do that in front of all these people. And I think that really opened up a lot of doors, for me, because it let me tell more of my story. It let me tell more about who I am as a human being outside of just like, hey, here's this big guy that lost a bunch of weight, and was performing and Todd saw him. So that probably had to be the top, is getting to perform my music up there for folks and just the reaction that got.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so as we close this out, what would you tell people your big takeaway from this was?
So
there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. My biggest takeaway was just the realization of just being me. And I'm the kind of person that always is me.
That's so crazy to me that that's your takeaway, because no one ever has looked at you and thought, I bet that guy might struggle with being himself someday.
Yeah, no, I normally don't. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't that I was necessarily struggling with being myself. It's just that I was looking at it and saying, out of respect for them, should I wear a suit, or should I do this different, or should I do that different? So just the takeaway being that, man, just go and be exactly who you are, and God's going to put the people in your life and put you in the people's life that it's supposed to happen with.
There's a time in my life that I remember going through something like that. I was going to an event, and I just realized I was felt like I was outclassed. And I was like, I don't know how to handle myself with this. And it was such a weird spot. Like I have my doubts about myself during the day, but if it's showtime, I don't have any fear in things. Right. And, my thought on it was at first I was like, the particular place I was going, I was looking at suits and I was like, I can't even afford the type of suits that these people are going to be wearing at this place. And so I just went the opposite. I was like, I'm just going to take me and put that on acid. If I were a suit, what would I look like? And that was, whenever I bought that
the rose,
super flowery, rosy, and wore it with the Jordans because I was like, ain't nobody going to show up looking like that at this event.
It was a wedding, right?
It was a wedding. Yeah. But I mean, like the tuxes and stuff that they were pulling out, like they were pulling out all name brand stuff. This was like, not like name brands that we know of. We're talking about the name brands, these
this was
$10,000 suits and
multi-million-dollar wedding. Miami? Do I remember that right?
Vegas.
It was $3 million. Yeah. No, it was Miami.
Yeah.
Was it Miami?
Yeah.
Then you went to Vegas right after that.
I think I might have been in Vegas when he was in Miami.
No, he went to Vegas right after it. I remember because I didn't see him for like a month, and I was really sad.
Oh, you struggled.
Oh, it's my wife's business. It was the furniture
thing.
Stuff she was getting
at. We were supposed to do that too.
Yeah. But I mean, like when I look at those times, you just look at it and go, "What am I? Who am I?" And I'm just going to be even more of that then.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I just took away that, hey man, you are enough. And you deserve the things you're willing to go out there and work for. And every time I do one of these motivational videos in the morning, I always start off by saying, up before the sun, done before the sun comes up. And I always end it by saying, just remember, you're worth the things you're willing to work for. And
I'd like to believe that's true for you, but I'm pretty sure you're still working when the sun goes down too.
Done with the workout. Not done with the day. No, the day just gets started at 4:30 in the morning. But anyways,
right.
it was a great time. I fully tell everybody, go to the RiskOn Festival if you can get, even if it's the cheapest ticket they offer, and you go for one day. The amount of speakers that they had, and I'm not even touching base on it. Like you have to go see. Follow them on Instagram and all that, and go see what they're doing. Because Todd Alt, he delivered probably the best event that I've ever been to. With just with the people, that were there, the way he treated it. The food that you got, the way that he did there was nothing that was done in a just do enough. Everything was done over the top. Nothing was just do it enough to get by and make people feel okay. It's like if you spent the money to be there, you got your money's worth.
Yeah.
From the food you ate, which was all top notch, to the speakers that were there, to the experience that you had, every single piece of it was done at the top level. And that's the reason that dude's a billionaire and owns a Formula One team and all these other things, because everything he does is done at the top level.
If you're going to do it right.
All right. Now, speaking of that, go like, subscribe, follow, give us 5 stars, 10 stars. I got 10.5, 10.5, 10 3/4, 10 3/4. I got 75,000, 75,000, 75,000, 100 million, 100 million, 100 million, 100 million sold to Jeff Suter. Thank you. I'll be taking that in cash. Anyways, do all that stuff. Refine life.
Hey.